Hello and welcome to VBS 2021, Day 2, Knights of North Castle. So here comes the theme song.
Good day, Knights of North Castle, and welcome back to Story Hall, right here in North Castle. And last week's quest for the King's Armor, we explored the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They showed us the way to the belt of truth. For when we stand up for what is good and true, we gird our loins with the belt of truth. That means we put on the belt of truth. Oh my, what's that? Oh, good day, fair maiden. How art thou?
Oh, thou hast caught me on a very rotten day, as an apple in the barrel bruised and rotting. My spirit is downcast this morn.
Oh, fair maiden, thou dost stop me in my tracks with this distressing news. What, pray thee, is the source of this rotting in your soul?
Oh, well, good night.
Art thou departing for bedchamber so swiftly, fair maiden?
Oh, no, sir. I wast calling thou by thy proper name. Is not your name correctly spoken, Mr. Good Knight?
Ah, yes. I am a good knight when I put on the king's armor and live by the words in the king's book. Anyway, fair maiden, thou wast beginning to speak to the source of the rotting of thy soul.
Well, good night. As I didst approach the market this morn, I chanced to see an orphan take an apple from the produce stand.
You mean the waif stole the apple?
Indeed, good night. But what bore into my spirit like a worm in an apple was that this poor child has no other way to sustain himself.
Oh, such a sad life that this young soul has to resort to stealing, for he has no parents to care for him.
Oh, but even more sad is that he was caught and promptly thrashed. Yes, he was thrashed for trying to meet a deep and very human need to have some food.
Oh, fair maiden, oh, that our people would create ways to help the poor and the fatherless.
Indeed, good night. As believers in the King's book, we need to care for the poor, help feed the hungry,
Oh, yes.
and try to protect and care for the orphans, not thrash them with a sapling.
Fair maiden, thou dost raise an important concern, that our young knights would seek after justice and righteousness. While we know it's wrong to steal, we also know in our spirit that it's wrong when someone goes hungry and we can help. And that brings us to today's quest in search of the king's armor.
And what are thy searching for today?
It is the breastplate of righteousness.
Great. I know what a breastplate is. It's the armor that protects the king's belly and chest. But what is justice?
Justice is our word of the day. Justice means being fair. When we treat people fairly, we're treating them with justice.
Good night, I pray thee, remind me how thou dost prepare for thy quest to secure this strong armor.
Oh, fair maiden, thou dost ask the best questions. A quest for the king's armor requires preparation. And I can think of no better way to start out our quest than with the word of the Lord. Look, see our banner. See thou our guiding verse.
Yes.
See
Oh,
thou
I see
our
thy-
guiding verse.
Yes, I see thy banner. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Ephesians 6, verse 10.
Oh, fair maiden, thy skill at reading is indeed a wonder. Perhaps all my young knights could recite our banner verse with fair maiden.
Why, yes. Hear ye the words from Ephesians. That means listen up, young knights. Repeat after me. Be strong in the Lord.
Be strong in the Lord.
And in the strength of his power.
And in the strength of his power.
Now let's put it all together. Be strong
in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Huzzah!
Oh, God bless you.
No, fair maiden, I did not sneeze. Fair maiden, the word huzzah is knight speak for cool or very good.
Oh, yes, that is right. Huzzah, young knights.
Indeed, great work, young knights. Today, our tale from the King's Book is from a section we call the Hebrew Scriptures.
Or, as some people call it, the Old Testament. In fact, in the Hebrew Scriptures, there are many books. Today's story comes from the book of 1 Samuel.
Each time we gather for our quest to find the king's armor, we will experience stories from both the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures, that is, the Old and the New Testaments.
And today's story takes place in the faraway land of Israel. To make this story come to life, young knights, do what either the good knight or I do. Those sounds that will help us imagine what was happening.
So, fair maiden, let us therefore rest upon these thine throne-like seats and cushions, that we may indeed tell the story from the King's Book. The King's Book tells how King Saul and the army of Israel stood upon a high hill. Across the valley, on the other hill, stood the army of the Philistines. And down in the valley trudged the giant Philistine, a big bully named Goliath. Are you doing it with us, young knights?
Oh, my goodness. That mean bully challenged anyone from the army of Israel to fight him, one-on-one. If Goliath won, the Israelites would have to serve the Philistines. But if an Israelite challenger won, the Philistines would serve Israel.
Not me.
Oh, not me.
Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
Ooh,
Not
not me.
me. Not me.
Not me.
But no one came forward. They were all terrified.
Then A young shepherd boy named David came from from a field on the hillside.
That's the sound of rustling grass as the little shepherd came through. But King Saul told David he was too young, too small, and no match for the giant. Still, David insisted that God had protected him from lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my!
When he was out in the fields as a shepherd. God would protect him against the bully Goliath and stop his insults against their God, and prevent them from hurting the people of Israel.
Do as you wish, the king told David, and he commanded his soldiers to put his armor on David so as to protect him.
Ah, fair maiden, the king's armor.
Oh, no, good knight.
No?
It wasn't the king's armor. It was the oversized armor of King Saul.
And the armor, what was?
Too big for David.
Oh, my.
And declining King Saul's armor, David covered himself up with a different armor, God's righteousness and justice. When David went out to meet Goliath, the giant laughed.
Ho, 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 ho. Can you do that with us? Ho, 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 ho. That's Goliath. But believing in God's strength, David picked up 5 smooth stones from the dry riverbed.
David took one stone and loaded it in his sling. He swung the sling around and around and around, and then released the stone.
And that one stone hit Goliath right in the forehead. And Goliath fell to the ground.
When the Philistines saw this, they ran away as fast as they could.
Saul and the Israelites cheered for David, who with God's help stood up for fairness and justice. Woo-hoo! You can stand up. Woo-hoo!
Stand up. Woo-hoo!
We're going to stand up for
Woo-hoo!
justice. Okay, I think it's time for our daily song.
We're going to do assembly trivia first.
Okay, good. This will be fun. We didn't do this
David went
last.
into battle against Goliath with the king's armor, a sandwich and an apple, a sling and 5 small stones, his best friend.
David went into battle against Goliath with which one of those? Does anybody know? Okay, say it out loud.
A sling and 5 small stones.
That's
to
what
become
he
a knight,
used.
one would first become a page, and then a whole book, squire, police officer, baker.
I know.
A squire.
Okay. Page, squire, and
Our
then a
banner
knight.
verse states, "Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power, army, horses, iceberg."
I bet you all know that. Can you say that out loud?
Iceberg.
No, it's power. Remember, we make a fist. Power, the strength of his power.
Power.
Yes, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Well,
Thanks for playing.
We'll do this again next week. That's Assembly Hall Trivia. Now I think it's time for our daily song.
I mean, that's right. What, don't we have to stand up?
Yeah.
When temptation's big and my faith seems small, I remember to surrender to the one who's able to deliver me.
Oh my, I could fall, fair maiden, from all that exercise. My goodness. Well, fair maiden,
Yes.
did you know that bullies can make us feel small and alone? In fact, bullies tend to pick on people who appear to be all alone. So, who was the bully in today's story, young knights? Goliath, that's
right. And Goliath was bullying the Israelites by insulting them and their God. Goliath was humongous. But one person who believed in God's justice went out and faced Goliath. Who was that?
That's right. Many people read the story of David and Goliath and think, see there, David stood up to Goliath. He bonked Goliath right in the head with a stone and saved the day. So we always should stand up to bullies.
But often, when someone smaller stands up to a bully, the smaller person gets clobbered.
Oh, no.
So we have the bully, Goliath. We have the ones being bullied, the Israelites. And we have someone who risked bodily harm to stand up to the bully, David. Prithee, that means please, tell me who else is part of the story.
God, that's right. Jolly good, young knights. Brilliant work. David wasn't alone at all. God was there, showing us, as God so often does, the best way to handle the situation. God didn't stand against Goliath so much as God stood with David.
Did you know that by simply standing with another person, we can cut bullying in half? Isn't that amazing? We can cut bullying in half without throwing a single stone.
So, young knights, it's not about who you stand against. It's about who you stand with and about what you stand for. Knights of North Castle, who is willing to take a stand right now for what matters? You are? Let's all take a stand for what matters. Will you stand for one another? Yes.
Will you stand for truth and justice?
Yes.
Then let us shout as one our castle call out for today. Armor up with justice. Let's shout that.
Armor up with justice.
Let's do that again.
Yes, like true noble knights. Armor up with justice. Huzzah. You know what huzzah means, right? What's it mean? Cool. Cool, dudes. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Great
By
job.
thy good night, I must bid thee farewell.
Oh, it's been a delight to
I
have
must travel afar.
the fair maiden with us today to help us learn about the breastplate of justice.
Yes. But I bid thee farewell.
Let's bid her farewell with me. We bid you farewell. Fond farewell. Say fond farewell. Fond farewell. Okay, now I think we have the Bible story in video form.
The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, tells us about one of the most famous battles in the history of the world. It all starts with King Saul, a very strong and handsome guy. However, as we learn later, he was not a great king at all. Therefore, God chose a small young shepherd to be the next king. He was the smallest and youngest of 8 sons. His name was David. This little shepherd really loved God. King Saul led his people in battle against their arch nemesis, the Philistines. They were not very nice people. When I said they were not nice, I meant to say they were very mean. Thank you. The Philistine army was very confident, and for good reason. They had a secret weapon, a powerful soldier named Goliath. He measured 6 cubits and a span. In other words, he was very tall. Taller than that. Taller? Close enough. Every day, Goliath yelled at the Israelites to send out someone to fight. All the Israelites, including King Saul, were too afraid to fight Goliath, so they did nothing for 40 days. Nothing, that is, until little David showed up to bring lunch to his brothers. While delivering food, David heard Goliath shouting at the Israelites, "Send out a man for me to fight." So he volunteered. The king was unsure about sending a boy into battle. But David told the king about how he had fought both lion and bear to protect his sheep. "I will do the same to Goliath." The king agreed and gave David all of his armor to wear, but it didn't fit. Instead, David simply took his sling, went to the creek, and found 5 smooth rocks. Maybe try those smaller ones over there? With only his sling and a bag of rocks, David goes to fight the powerful Goliath. Now, it was Goliath's turn to be shocked as he saw David approaching. Instead of a strong warrior, the Israelites sent a small shepherd boy with no armor. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" Unfazed, David said, "You fight me with weapons, but God will win this battle." Goliath just laughed. Maybe a little more... Yeah, that's it. Anyway, David took a stone from his bag, put it in his sling, and flung it at Goliath. It hit him right in the head, and he fell on his face. When the other Philistines saw that Goliath was dead, they all ran away, and the Israelites ran after them. All of this was just as David said when he told Goliath, "Our God doesn't need swords or spears. God owns this battle, and he will hand all of you over to us and bring justice." And this is just one great story from the King's Book.
Wow, kids, this King's Book is amazing, and it's filled with stories that will help us to find the king's armor. So go out, knights, and look for the king's armor today. Today, let's find the breastplate of justice. Have fun, knights. Thank you for joining us.